one of the most exciting parts of writing a novel is getting to read through and see how everything you've worked on up to this point has come together. And as I was coming back from Japan, I was pumped to get right back into reading my first draft. But my brain had some other ideas. With a 13-hour time difference that made me feel like I was about to wake up when I was trying to go to sleep, rest and recovery were not cutting it. And even after a full week back, I was still no closer to feeling like my normal self. But having made no progress on my story for an entire month, I was not willing to wait any longer. So I decided to get back on track in a big way and see if I could finish the reading and analysis of the entire 322-page novel in just 2 days. Okay, so I'm finally back to work on this revision process, starting with this read-through. And for the revision process, I am referring to plot and structure because, frankly, my revision process is a little bit vague anyway, so having a very clearly defined process, I think, is useful for me. The first step was to set aside the book for 2 to 3 weeks, and to be quite honest, I ended up waiting for even longer than that because of the fact that when I returned from Japan to the United States, I got pretty jet lagged and I just had trouble getting my sleep back into a rhythm. But either way, I don't have time to keep waiting, so let's just get started here. He mentions that in this first step of the process, you are focusing on the big picture, you're triaging the story. So main things that he mentions to focus on are to see what places surprise you while you're reading, what the characters are really doing, and if there's anything that you didn't explore with them yet, looking into places that drag, maybe this is scenes or maybe this is whole swaths of the story, and imagining how the plot could be different and how that could impact the story and improve things. Those are the main things that I'm going to be focusing on while I read through. My goal for today is to read through the story in its entirety, which is a little bit crazy given how long it is. And of course, while I'm reading through, I'm going to be taking notes the whole time. So let's just get into this reading. So I just finished up with the first 50 pages of the read-through out of 322, so I still have quite a bit to go. Unfortunately, as I may have been able to expect, the whole sleepiness thing is difficult and I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. My eyes are heavy and I feel like I'm about to take a nap or nod off a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. But before I do that, let's talk about how this went. So overall, I am liking the way this is going so far. I do feel like the intertwining stories work together, and there are some scenes, especially the opening scenes for 2 of the characters, that are really fun and interesting. However, there were a few things that I noticed that could use some work showing versus telling. There's a lot of telling going on, and I can definitely see places that would benefit from showing instead. So overall, things are going well. I do think the story is looking good. However, I'm tired. I'm literally falling asleep. So I'm going to try to take a little bit of a break, see if I can't wake myself up a little bit. And I might even take a nap because it's still early. It's 6 o'clock, but I'm like falling asleep here. So maybe like a 30-minute nap would be good. My nap didn't really work and I was still sleepy, but I decided to persist anyway. I have managed to get a decent amount of reading done so far. I'm on page 82 or something, but I'm getting tired again. I was standing up and still feeling sleepy, like I was gonna fall asleep. So maybe I'll actually be able to take a nap this time. I'm gonna try to take a 20-minute nap and hopefully that will work. If not, then I'm not sure what I'm gonna do except for just power through it. Let's try it out. Maybe this will help me get alert and actually be able to make good progress and focus well on the actual reading. This time I was actually able to sleep for a few minutes, but it didn't really help much with my mental state. So I just got back into the reading. So I've gotten to 152 pages in. So I may or may not have succeeded in taking a short nap before. I honestly don't even remember, but whatever. I did a bunch of reading afterward, even though I was still feeling kind of sleepy and still struggling with my eyes wanting to close and just feeling tired all the time. Part of it is that last night I didn't even get a full night's sleep either. So in addition to the problems I was already having, it wasn't a great thing, but I'm tired of postponing for the recovery of the jet lag and the sleep related effects. I just wanted to start working on this regardless. Anyway, I have made good progress. Mostly I'm noticing problems on the character front, with characters behaving a little bit inconsistently at times. I'm gonna have to go through and change up some of the scenes between Lucian and Ella, because I think that the way that I wrote their interactions in the beginning just don't really fit that well. Those are the main details that I'm noticing so far. I'm just going to take a little bit of break right now since I reached almost the halfway point, and I'll be back to continue working on this reading in a bit. Okay, so I took a break to have some dinner and do my Japanese, and to be quite honest, I'm still feeling tired, and I felt tired while I was doing the Japanese too. I'm falling asleep so easily while I'm sitting up, which is not ideal. So I've spent most of the day standing so far, and I guess I'm probably gonna have to stand up to continue reading this stuff as well. So anyway, I still have about, well, actually more than half of the book left. So let's just do what we can here. Despite feeling as if I would fall asleep while standing, I continued to read through the next 150 plus pages. So I just finished reading all the way to the end of the book. In general, I thought the story was pretty solid actually. I think the beats of the story worked well together. The timeline and the intertwining of the different character arcs actually worked out pretty well. Better than I thought it might, which is good. The individual scenes themselves were mostly really good. There were some scenes toward the beginning, I think, that were a little bit lacking in terms of like grippingness and stuff like that. Obviously, I already talked about the show versus telling sort of bias that I had, so that's something I'll need to address later. But for right now, the main like big picture things that I need to focus on are making sure characters are consistent. I'm gonna have to go through and make sure that I'm keeping the characters consistent. And I'll probably just do that for one character at a time so that I can focus on that character's unique sort of voice and not get confused or mix them with other characters. Also, there is a little bit of a pacing sort of issue. I didn't really think it was too much of an issue while reading, but as far as like the numbers, it seems like it is an issue, which is that the midpoint for all the different characters came closer to the 60% mark than the 50% mark. And as you may imagine, a midpoint is supposed to be at 50%. So that was a little bit of a weird pacing thing. The bad guys close in happened pretty fast. The bad guys close in felt very fast in comparison, but because the midpoint was so late, the All Is Lost came pretty late as well. It was like 80%. So there's a little bit of lack of balance there in the second act of the story. So I would like to work on that a little bit. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it, but maybe some of those fun and game scenes are really not necessary. And even after a full night of sleep, I awoke the next day just as sleepy as ever. So now that I finished working through the read-through, I'm ready to start analyzing and basically just reflecting on the story and what I think could use changing. So the main way I'm going to be doing that is by referring to the book Plot and Structure and the revision-based questions that he talks about in this book. So now that I've made it to the read-through section, I'm going to be focusing first on some of these story questions that he talks about, and then I'll move on to these more structural questions, and there's quite a few of those, and I think the structural questions are really good. So I'm definitely going to be taking some time to think through these and making sure that I'm answering them to the best of my ability. And then finally, I'm going to be looking through some of these other questions. So in general, there are quite a few questions I'm going to be aiming to answer today, and hopefully these will help expose some of the things that I need to work on in the story and make my story a lot better. Okay, so I just worked through all of these questions and came up with a few things that I want to change here. So I found these questions useful for delving into what's going on in the story currently and really making sure that things are working. Overall, most of the problems that I currently found are related to characters, and the characters' motivations are not clear enough, and the characters are not unique enough. So I do need to work on that, and that's something I think I may need to work on in general, making more unique characters and creating these characters that really stand out and that like jump off the page. So character concerns are the main things that I need to work on, but Outside of that, there is a little bit of structural stuff, like the midpoint being late, as I talked about yesterday, as well as making sure that I'm drawing out some of these really big scenes and sucking all the potential emotion out of them, because currently, some of them are pretty quick and to the point, and they're not really manifesting all the tension that they could have. So that's all for my analysis of this draft. I'm going to continue a little bit over the next few days, just kind of thinking about how I can address these various points. But the read-through part is done, and the analysis part is also done. When I first decided to start this revision, despite the sleep problems, I had no idea just how hard it would be. And after struggling basically every minute to stay awake for 2 days straight, I was proud of the fact that I pushed through all of these obstacles and finished the rereading and analysis regardless. And that has helped me to reclaim momentum and be ready for the next challenge. As you've just seen, one of the big problems that I'm having in this story and just my stories in general is creating unique and memorable characters. So if you know of a writing craft book that has given you plenty of insights on this topic, I would be very grateful if you left that in the comments below, because it will definitely help me in the upcoming revision process. Thanks. And if you want to see how I wrote more than 20,000 words in 2 days to finish up this first draft, then make sure to watch this video next. She holds it all up under that pretty head of hers own. What song is that?